ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
She fine. How are you doing? I think all of you are fine. And in the meantime, I'm going to start the discussion of today. That is on international relationship. And last time, I think we have started looking into the framework for international relationship. And by now, we're going to extend our discussion and we will see some of the fundamental concepts in global affairs. As you recall our discussion, የባለፈውን ዲስከሽናችንን እንደምታስታውሱት ለዓለም አቀፋዊ ግንኙነት መሰረት የሆኑ አንዳንድ ነገሮችን ተነጋግረን ነበር። ስለዚህ among that thing foreign policy is important. እዚህ ጋር ነበር ያቆምነው ባለፈው. So what is foreign policy and how we can justify it? What are the labels under international relationship was discussed previously. Now for today I'm planning to discuss with you about how these things are frameworked and then how countries can use international relation or foreign policy as an input for their relationship. ምንድነው ባለፈው እንደተነጋገርነው foreign policy ለአንድ ሀገር በጣም አስፈላጊ ነው። it is ምንድን ነበር እንደው መጨረሻ ላይ የተባባልነው it is what a document. It is a document to keep the mutual interest. Yeah, ታስታውሳላችሁ? Yeah, do you remember the discussion we have had previously? We said that for example, let me give you a simple instance. Let's say that you want to have a business with somebody and that somebody is not known with you and ግለሰብ ለምሳሌ ከናንተ ጋር የንግድ ድርጅት ለመክፈት ፈለገ. One of you have the financial capability and the other has what other resources like intellectual resources or material resources. Therefore you need to combine these two resources so as to operate your business. Yeah, አንደኛው ሰው ገንዘብ ቢኖረው ሌላኛው ሰው ደግሞ ሌላ ሪሶርስ ቢኖረው ማቴሪያል ቢኖረው ወይም ሌላ ነገር ቢኖረው ሁለቱን combine ማድረግ ቢያስፈልግ how you are going to create trust? Okay, can you tell me how you can create a trust among yourself, among the other party? እንዴት ነው እምነት የምታዳብሩ? አታውቁትም ይሄንን ግለሰብ። ኦኬ፣ ከማታውቁት ሰው ጋር የንግድ ቤት ለመክፈት ትልቅ የንግድ ተቋም ለመክፈት ብትፈልጉ what are you going to do? ይነግረኝ ሰው አለ? Anybody, anyone can try. Especially in the business area, in the business world, these things are common ነው የተለመደ ነው። ስለዚህ how you are going to create a partnership by building a trust, a mutual trust. Yes, Faiza?
ተመጣጣኝ የሆነ የፋይናንሻል እንትን ገንዘብ በኩል መልኩ አዋጥተው ያው ያኛውም ሳይንስ ያኛውም ሳይበልጥ በኩል መልኩ ይሄኛውም
በኩል
ያኛውም የሚሰራው
እኩል ባይሆንስ? ለምሳሌ አንተ like አንተ you can cover 75% of our share and I have only 25%. እኩል አይደለንም። አንተ የተሻለ ገቢ ስላለህ you can spend 75% of the action or let's say the share, but I have only 25%. ግልጽ ነው። እኩል necessarily ልክ ነህ። ጥሩ ሙከራ ነው። የግድ እኩል መሆን አይጠበቅበትም። አንዳችን at the end of the day we're going to have the dividend according to our cost. Yeah, አወጣነው መንገድ መሰረት ዲቪደንዱን እኩል እንካፈላለን። The question here is, my question here is how you are going to have a trust. እንዴት እንተማመናለን? አንተዋወቅም ምን እናንተ ካሁን በፊት። አሁን the very reason why I said this is ይሄንን ያልኩበት ምክንያት ምን መሰላችሁ? አገሮችም ሪሌሽንሺፕ ሊመሰርቱ ነው አይደል? They are going to have either cultural relationship, either financial relationship or political relationship, but they don't have for example previous experience የላቸው ከዚህ በፊት they were not having such kinds of relationships so far, and from now onwards they are going to create a relationship. So how they can create trust? ሁለቱንም ጎን ለጎን ተመልከቱ። የሀገሮችንም relationship ይሁ ሁለተኛ ደግሞ የኢንዲቪጁዋልስ relationship that I have mentioned earlier. So the very basic reason is you're going to put some contractual agreements with your partner. Yeah, እኔና ፈይሳ ልንከፍት የፈለግነው የንግድ ቤት ከመክፈታችን በፊት ገንዘባችንን ከማስቀመጣችን በፊት ምን እናደርጋለን? We're going to have a deal, legal dealing እናደርጋለን አይደል? We put what? We put our aim, our objective, why we are going to have this partnership. Aim partnership ለምን እንደፈለግነው እናስቀምጣለን. And then we're going to also put what is expected from each one. ከኔ ምን የሚጠበቀው ከአንተ ምን የሚጠበቀው ነው? ከሁለታችንም የሚጠበቀውን ነገር እናስቀምጣለን ማለት ነው። Likewise, foreign policy is just an instrument to have mutual interest, to keep mutual interests. You know, and agaroj like Israel and like America, they are militarily strong. Okay, they have a very powerful military power. Therefore, they might put some pressure on you. But financially, ጥሩ አገሮች ናቸው. At the same time, they are also equipped with the highest or the most modern and expensive instruments are held by Israel and America. So when you create some partnership with these states, you might be afraid of something. What if they are going to violate what they have added? ያሉትን ነገር መጨረሻ ላይ ባይጠብቁስ የተባባሉትን ነገር መጨረሻ ላይ if they don't keep their promise, then problem is probable. Therefore, what is the mechanism? What is the tool in order to avoid this problem? It is what? The international policy, or commonly it is called foreign policy. ልክ ቀደም እንደተነጋገርነው ዓለም አቀፍ ግንኙነትን ሼፕ ለማድረግ አገሮች የሚጠቀሙበት ፖሊሲ ምን ይባላል? ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ወይም የውጭ ጉዳይ። ልክ እንደ ምንድነው ብላችሁ ማሰብ ትችላላችሁ? It is just a mutual agreement. So today's discussion is about foreign policy and its dimension. And then we're going to see also the foreign policy that Ethiopia used to implement in the past and in the current time. Here on የነገርኳችሁ international policy ወይም foreign policy is important, is mandatory, and at this time countries usually develop different kinds of international policy when the regime changed, when the government changed, especially in Africa, whereby frequent turmoil, frequent war happened. Countries usually adopt different kinds of policies, and today's discussion is about foreign policy. Are you fine? ጥሩ ነው?
አሪፍ ነው።
Yeah. So what is this policy all about? And who has the mandate to create it? Obviously, it is government. It is a ruling government. By noticing different kinds of things, um, foreign policy will be drafted, and once it is drafted, it's going to serve for short, medium, and long period of time. Just let me give you some definition for what international policy is or foreign policy is. Simply, you can define like this. Foreign policy is እንዲህ ብላችሁ በቀላሉ መተርጎም ትችላላችሁ። Foreign policy is a mutual document drafted by both countries if the relationship is created by two countries. በሁለት ሀገሮች የሚፈጠር relationship ከሆነ it's going to be ratified ማረጋገጥ ማለት ነው። It's going to be ratified by both countries, and if it is multilateral relationship, multilateral ያልኳችሁ ምንድነው? በጣም በብዙ ሀገሮች ከሆነ ያ ግንኙነት የተፈጠረው ለምሳሌ እንደ ኢጋድ ልክ እንደ ዩናይትድ ኔሽን እንደ ለምሳሌ እንደ አፍሪካ ዩኒየን ከሆነ parties are many, okay? ብዙ ናቸው። ስለዚህ እነዚህ ብዙ ሀገሮች ሪፕሬዘንታቲቮቻቸውን በመላክ they are going to have a mutual agreement. But most of the time, this foreign policy is used for various reasons or various purposes. So, generally speaking, you can define like this. Foreign policy is a written legal document. 3 points you can note in here. It is written. That means it should not be oral, right? It should not be oral. It needs to be written, one, and it must be legal. It is legally binding. That means if you did not keep what you have agreed, then there comes what? A bad consequence. የምትጠብቁት ማለት የተጻፈውን ነገር የግድ ወደ ተግባር ማዋል አለብን ማለት ነው። That's what legality aspect indicates. The legality aspect የሚያረጋግጠው ነገር ምንድነው? If you don't keep what you have agreed, then there comes a consequence. Consequence ሊመጣ ይችላል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ it is a written and a legal document that govern the relationship among countries, the relationship among states. በሀገሮች መካከል ያለውን relationship govern ለማድረግ የሚያገለግል written የሆነ document ነው። That's it. That is what foreign policy refers to. So this foreign policy can stay for short, middle, and long period of time. You can divide into three spectrum. በሶስት spectrum ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። The mid, I mean the short range time that stay only for few weeks, probably few months, probably. Okay? የአጭር ጊዜ የመካከለኛ ጊዜና የረጅም ጊዜ ፖሊሲ ተብሎ በሶስት ይከፈላል። It depends on the situation that you are in. Okay? If you are under a condition of emergency, for example, then you can have a short range plan. For example, let me give you one good example. Like these days, we are having a problem at national or international level. Yeah, this time we are having an international problem that every parts of the world are worried about the disease. So at this time, since the problem can stay probably for 1 or 2 years, you can have a short period of alliance. Probably you can say, ለምሳሌ እንደዚህ ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ። Or before I tell you the exact answer, let me give you few minutes and you can discuss or you can come up with an answer. Give me an example about a short, a middle, and a long-term alliance. Alliance means relationship or partnership, you can refer. So if I wanted to have um, a short period of alliance, can you come up with an example for each? ለሶስቱ አሁን ለነገርኳችሁ ለእያንዳንዱ ምሳሌ ይዛችሁ አገኛችኋለሁ ተመልሼ ስመጣ I will give you a few minutes, okay? Not more than 2 minutes. እስከዛ ድረስ ለእያንዳንዱ አንዳንድ ምሳሌ ይዛችሁ long range foreign policy ፈጠን አድርጉት። Come on. Yoshikawa, can you try? Okay. ሰዓት ለመቆጠብ ያክል እኔው ለመልስ ዲስከስ አድርጋችሁ ምትመጡ መስሎኝ ነበር። ለምሳሌ for short period of time ልክ አሁን እንዳልኳችሁ when the country is at the state of emergency, for example, when the state is at problem, አገሮች አንዳንድ ጊዜ ፕሮብለም ላይ በሚሆኑበት ጊዜ for economic alliance የሚፈጠር ሪሌሽንሺፕን ጋይድ ለማድረግ የሚፈጠር ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ነው። ለምሳሌ አሁን በዚህ ሰዓት ብዙ ሀገሮች በዚህ በሽታ ምክንያት ተቸግረዋል። ስለዚህ ይሄ በሽታ እስኪያልፍ ድረስ for short period of time they just create some alliance in order to exchange medical equipment, so as to exchange physicians and so on. ሐኪሞችን ለመቀያየር ሊሆን ይችላል ወይ የህክምና ግብአቶችን ለመቀያየር ሊሆን ይችላል። just as long as this disease stay, they just have the relationship only. Once the disease passed away, then they can keep their relationship ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ አንዳንድ ጊዜ ኢመርጀንሲ ላይ ለምሳሌ በጎርፍ ሀገሮች ሲጠቁ፣ በድርቅ ሀገሮች ሲጠቁ ወይንም በጦርነት ሀገሮች ሲጠቁ they will have an alliance. They showed an interest to have interest, but that relationship will only stay for a short period of time. So in order to govern that relationship, they come up with a foreign policy. The other is for the middle range የምንለው ደግሞ ከ5 ዓመት በላይ ለሆነ relationship ለማቆየት ሲባል create የሚደረግ ነው። What will happen within this 4 or 5 years period, or ከ5 እስከ 10 ዓመት ባለው ጊዜ ውስጥ ማለት ነው። በእንደዚህ አይነት ጊዜያቶች ውስጥ ደግሞ probably economic interest ሊሆን ይችላል, cultural interest ሊሆን ይችላል, but whatever the problem is, it would just stay until 10 years. And the long range ደግሞ ይሄ መንግስቱ ራሱ ቢያልፍ አንዱ የተመረጠው መንግስት አልፎ ኔክስት እንኳን ቢመጣ countries will only use that. ስለዚህ long range የምንለው ደግሞ like አሁን ለምሳሌ ወደ የጠፈር ምርምር ላይ አገሮች በጣም ለረጅም ዓመት ይቆያል ብለው የሚያስቡትን ለምሳሌ ሚሊታሪ ላይ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ የሳይንስና ምርምር ውጤቶችን ሊሆን ይችላል። እዚህ ጉዳይ ላይ if the ruling government fall down and replaced by another one, then what? Then you can say that the coming government can also use this foreign policy. የሚመጣው government እንኳን አሁን አንድ government ለምሳሌ in our cases, let's say that for 20-25 years ሊቆይ ይችላል። ለእንደዛ ያክል ዓመት ለ50 ዓመት ለ100 ዓመት ድረስ የሚያገለግል የሪሌሽንሺፕ ጋይድ ማድረጊያ it is called what? It is called a long ranged international or foreign policy ይባላል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ this foreign policy እንዳልኳችሁ ለተለያየ ዓላማ ልናውል እንችላለን። So let me go, if you don't have any question, let me go immediately to what how Ethiopia used international policy in the past years. ኢትዮጵያ የተጠቀመባቸው የነበሩ የተለያዩ ፎሬን ፖሊሲዎችን ገረፍ እያደረገን በየፔሪዱ ለማየት እንሞክራለን ማለት ነው። By the way, before I go to that, this foreign policy is, as I told you, it is an instrument መሳሪያ ነው ማለት ነው. It is an instrument, for example, to put tariffs. You know tariffs, yeah? ታሪፎችን ለማስቀመጥ in order to have quota, in order to boycott, in order to embargo, in order to have loans, credit, currency manipulations, ብድር ለማግኘት የተለያዩ ድርድሮችን ለማድረግ ይሄ ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ይጠቅማል. And most importantly, to get foreign aid, military aid, okay, and also economic aid. እነዚህን aid እርዳታዎች ማለት ነው. aid ማለት እነዚህን ሁሉ እርዳታዎች ለማግኘት foreign policy is very very important. So እንግዲህ ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ወደ ሀገራችን በምንመጣበት ጊዜ ኢትዮጵያ የተለያዩ ፎሪን ፖሊሲዎችን በዘመኗ ተጠቅማለች. ስለዚህ ሞደርን ፒሪየድ በመባል የሚታወቀው ከየት ጀምሮ ነው? The modern history of Ethiopia starts from where? From when? ከየት ነው የሚጀምረው የኢትዮጵያ ሞደርን ታሪክ?
አጼ ቴዎድሮስ
from አጼ ቴዎድሮስ ያ ስለዚህ ከአጼ ቴዎድሮስ ጀምሮ ያለውን ፎሪን ፖሊሲ አልፍ አልፍ እያለን እንመለከታለን ማለት ነው. The foreign policy during Emperor Theodore II, it includes the period from 1855 to 1868 ከ1855 እስከ 1868 ያለውን period cover ያደርጋል. Also the Ethiopian state trace back to 3000 years, but the modern imperial starting from the 19th century. የኢትዮጵያ ታሪክ ወደ 3000 ዓመት ድረስ ቢሄድም ግን ሞደርን የምንለው ዘመናዊ የምንለው ከአጼ ቴዎድሮስ ጀምሮ ስለሆነ ያንን የ19ኛው ሴንቸሪ እንመለከታለን ማለት ነው. So እስቲ ምን ይመስላችኋል በአጼ ቴዎድሮስ ጊዜ የነበረው ፎሪን ፖሊሲ? Can you just think of the kind of foreign policy that we have had during the Emperor Theodorus time? እስቲ የሚነግረኝ ሰው አለ? በኢምፐረር ቴዎድሮስ ፒሪየድ ምን አይነት ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ነበረ? Okay. As you know, Emperor Theodorus was one of the ambitious king that Ethiopia has in its time. Ethiopia ከነበሯት በጣም ambitious የነበሩ መሪዎች አጼ ቴዎድሮስ ይጠቀሳሉ. And this person wants to create a smooth relationship with the rest of the world. Especially they put a very strong intention and devotion for Britain, France, and Russia. These are actually Christian states, okay? These are Christian states, and they think that he thinks that as having or creating relationship with Britain, France, and Russia is a way to fight against Turk and Egyptians. ይህንን ለምንድን ነው ያልኩት? በአጼ ቴዎድሮስ ጊዜ የክርስትና ሃይማኖት በጣም ዶሚኔት ያደረገ ሃይማኖት ነበረ. So የአጼ ቴዎድሮስ የመጀመሪያ intention, it is just to protect the religion of the state, because so far the country has so many chaos with religion. Therefore he create good relationship with Britain, France, and Russia. Especially Russia was known for its Christianity. Therefore Emperor Theodorus ያደረጉት ነገር ምንድነው? He created good diplomatic relationship in the hope of fighting against Turks and Egyptians, who do have an intention to conquer Ethiopia with the religion of Islam. ግልጽ ነው። አሁን መጀመሪያ ላይ እንደምታስታውሱት አገሮች ሪሌሽንሺፕ የሚመሰርቱት ወይ ለሃይማኖት ኢንተረስት ሊሆን ይችላል ወይ ለባህል ኢንተረስት ሊሆን ይችላል ብለን ተነጋግረን ነበር አይደል? In this case the intention is religious intention. ኢንቴንሽኑ ምንድን ነበረ? religious intention. Okay? የዛን ሰዓት ሀገሪቱ ኢኮኖሚካሊ ምንም ሴንት የምታረገው ነገር የለም. Economically we were extremely poor and agrarian ነበረ፣ በግብርና የምንተዳደር፣ ከዛ ውጪ ምንም አይነት እንቅስቃሴ ያልነበረበት ነበር። ስለዚህ what was the intention of Emperor Theodorus? It was just to protect the country from religious aggression ነበረ በዛ ሰዓት። የሃይማኖት ወረራ ነበረ ስለዚህ በዛ ሰዓት በዚህ መሰረት ከቱርክ ከግብጽ የሚመጣውን የሃይማኖት ወረራ ለመከላከል ሲባል ከተቃራኒው ካሉ አገሮች ጋር ከብሪቴን ከፍራንስ እና ከሩሲያ ጋር ግንኙነት ተጀመረ ማለት ነው and also he was mentioned by having a very good relationship with British Queen and if you remember Emperor Theodosius used to send and receive missionaries and other people from Britain ከብሪቴን እንደውም አንዳንድ ስጦታዎችንም እንደውም ራሳቸውን ያጠፉበትን ትሩፕስን ራሱ ሽጉጡንም ከእንግሊዝ ንግስት ያገኙት እንደነበረ ታሪክ ይነግረናል ማለት ነው በብሪቲሽ ሚሽነሪዎችም ደግሞ በጣም ታዋቂ የነበሩ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ብዙ ቆይተው ብዙ ስራ የሰሩ ሐኪሞችም ዲፕሎማቶችም ነበሩ ማለት ነው so what do we conclude from this ከዚህ ኮንክሉድ የምናደርገው ምንድነው the relationship during Emperor Theodosius was very good smooth and particularly with Britain France and Russia Ethiopia used to have a very good relationship this is the first assessment የመጀመሪያው assessmentአችን ይሄ ነው ማለት ነው the second is who succeeded Emperor Theodosius
አፄ ዮሐንስ
አፄ ተክለ ሃይማኖት
Aze Yohannes after having a war that Emperor Theodosius killed himself and Emperor Yohannes V Yohannes አምስተኛ የሚባሉት ደግሞ የኢትዮጵያ ንጉስ ሆነው እንደተሾሙ ታሪክ ይነግረናል so once he proceeded and once he took the power then Islam as I told you earlier it was a threat and Yohannes considered Islam as a threat of territorial integrity of the polity therefore Egypt tried to put a very serious security threat in Ethiopia Egypt አሁንም ይሄ የእስልምናን ሃይማኖት ለማስፋፋት በሚል እንደውም the battle of Gundat and Gura was fought against what against Egyptians ከታሪክ ትምህርታችን እንደምናስታውሰው ከጉንደትና ጉራ ጦርነት በኋላ ነው በጣም ጥብቅ የሆነ የሃይማኖት ቁጥጥር አፄ ዮሐንስ ማድረግ የጀመሩት okay this time Egypt was not successful actually in both two wars time Egypt was defeated and the intention of expanding the religion Islam was fall down እስልምና ሃይማኖትን የማስፋፋት ኢንቴንሽናል ከዛ ጋር ተያይዞ ወድቋል ማለት ነው ስለዚህ what do we understand from this Ethiopia during the period of Yohannes V still they wanted to keep collaboration or alliance with Britain and what Russia it is for religious purpose the colonial ambition of Egypt was to spread up the religion Islam therefore once the trade of Blue Nile is also another issue in fact Nile issue እንዳለ ሆኖ ማለት ነው Nile was also a very critical problem between Ethiopia and Egypt but more than that religious conspiracy was one of the huge problems at that time ስለዚህ በእነዚህ ሁለት ነገስታት የምናስተውለው ነገር ምንድነው it is religious interest የሀገራቸውን ሪሊጅን ለማስጠበቅ ሲባል በእነሱ ሱኒየርስ በነፋሲለደስ ታይም በጣም ብዙ ኪዮስ ስለተነሳ የአገሪቱን ሃይማኖት ሜንቴን ማድረግ ፈልጓል actually እንደውም if I like to tell you እንደውም መናገር ከቻልኩኝ ምንድነው during the time of Emperor Yohannes there was massacre of ሙስሊሞችን እስከ መግደል ደረጃ የተደረሰበት ጊዜ ነበር ሙሉ ለሙሉ የእስልምና ሃይማኖትን ከአገሪቱ ለማውጣት እንደነገርኳችሁ ኢጂፕትም ደግሞ ሌላ አንድ ችግር ስለነበረች what Emperor Theodosius what Emperor Menelik used to use as a policy was to avoid mosques and the followers of this religion መስጊዶችን ማጥፋት እስልምና ሃይማኖት ጭራሽ ከአገሪቱ እንዲጠፋ ማድረግ ነበር አላማቸው የነበረው ስለዚህ ሪሌሽንሺፕ የሚፈጥሩት ከነማን ጋር ነው It is not with Muslim states, okay? Because they don't like these traits. The international relations they wanted to create and maintain goes with Christian states like Russia, okay? Like Britain and France. ግልጽ ነው? ግልጽ ነው? Am I clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So the third period that we need to see is following the days of Yohannes. Menelik II of Shawa assumed the throne, assumed the power, and he took the power. And as you know, the time of Menelik II was, mainly not only religious interest, but it also accompanied with a modernization interest, introducing Ethiopia with modern institutions, modern, I can't say, በምኒልክ ጊዜ ኢንትሮዱስ የተደረጉ በአብዛኛው ነገሮች ከምን የመጡ ናቸው? ከውጭ ኮፒ የተደረጉ ናቸው። It was copied from elsewhere, and unlike the previous government እንደ በፊቶቹ ሃይማኖትን ብቻ ለመጠበቅ ሳይሆን, unlike the previous governments, at this time the intention is economical and modernization. የአፄ ዮሐንስና የአፄ ቴዎድሮስ ኢንቴንሽን አገሪቱን ከሪሊጅን ፕሮብለም ለመጠበቅ ነበር። but እዚህ ጋር with the period of Menelik, the intention is much more higher. The intention is extended up to economic alliance and modernization, introducing the country with so many things. Can you tell me one or two things that was introduced during Emperor Menelik? Railway, yeah. Railway was introduced.
Telephone.
Very good.
Theater
ቤት, banks, insurances, yeah. Modern institution የምንላቸው በአጠቃላይ schooling, modern school was not there before, yeah. የዘመናዊ ትምህርት አልነበረም ከዛ በፊት። የቄስ ትምህርት፣ የሃይማኖት ትምህርት ብቻ ነበር። including institutions የምንላቸው ተቋሞች ማለት ነው። መንግስቱ ቢለዋወጥም የሚቆዩ ኢንስቲትዩሽንስ ላይክ ባንኮች፣ ኢንሹራንሶች ለምሳሌ፣ ትምህርት ቤቶች ለምሳሌ፣ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ለምሳሌ፣ የቴሌኮሙኒኬሽን፣ መብራት፣ መኪና and so on. So many things was introduced in Ethiopia. It is reasonably because Menelik has a very good relationship with abroad. ከውጭ መንግስታት ጋር በነበራቸው ጥሩ ግንኙነት አማካኝነት, it is because of the very good relationship that Emperor Menelik created with the outside world. Then we were fortunate enough to see so many modern institutions and instruments. ዘመናዊ የሆኑ መሳሪያዎችንና ዘመናዊ የሆኑ አሰራሮችን ለማየት ችለናል ማለት. At the same time, this international relationship has also created another very fatal mistake in which Ethiopia has paved a lot of things. ይሄ ኢንተርናሽናል ሪሌሽንሺፕም ደግሞ ያመጣብን ትልቅ ቀውስ፣ ትልቅ የሀገራችንን ብዙ ሰዎች ህይወት ያሳጣም ነገር ነበር አይደል? ታስታውሳላችሁ? Because of the international relationship Emperor Menelik created, that we have seen a war. Yeah. What about the Adwa war? The Battle of Adwa. It is a consequence of the international relationship. Is it not? አይደለም እንዴ?
Yeah.
No, because we have had a treaty, and one of the article of 17, ከኢንተርናሽናል ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ካልኳችሁ ማለት ነው they come up with the policy በፖሊሲ መታው ነበረ ነገር ግን on article 17 we did not have a mutual consent አልነበረንም for this reason these two states went to very drastic war በጣም ብዙ ህዝብ that happened that the bloody war of Adwa where Ethiopia forces made a record of history by defeating the powerful European colonial power. ስለዚህ on one hand we have got a very good relationship with the outside world, for example, with Egypt, with Kenya, with Djibouti, with British, with Italy, with even Somaliland. በዛ ሰዓት ሶማሊላንድ በጣም የተከፋፈለች ነበረች እና ከነዚህ ሀገሮች ጋር ሁሉ ጥሩ ሪሌሽንሺፕ ነበረ and at the same time this relationship is also a reason to have war. ለጦርነትም መንስኤ ሆኖ ነበር ማለት ነው. Do you have any question? Any question? Yeah. So generally speaking, Ethiopia tries to have good relationship with the outside world. Even if we have to mention, during the Aksumite period, during the Gondarian period, Ethiopia was also in a good motion, in a good position to have international relationship. But as a matter of fact, the relationship is only based on economic interest. በአክሱማይት ፔሪድ ማለት የኢትዮጵያ ሀያል ጊዜ ነበረ የኢትዮጵያ ብልጽግና ጊዜ ነበረ ብሎ ተብሎ በሚታሰብበት ጊዜ ራሱ ኢትዮጵያ was exporting items. Okay, Ethiopia was exporting some important items to the rest of the world, especially for the far east ሩቅ ምስራቅ ለሚባሉ ሀገሮች ብዙ ነገሮችን ኤክስፖርት የምታረግ ሀገር ነበረች ማለት ነው. Leave it that for the time being because our concern is after the modern period, that is after the period of Emperor Menelik, Emperor Theodros and Emperor Haile Selassie እና የዮሐንስ period ብቻ ነው modern ብለን ከብለን starting from the period of Theodros. ስለዚህ as I have told you earlier, within these two period of time በአፄ ቴዎድሮስ እና በአፄ ዮሐንስ ጊዜ የነበረው relationship is just to safeguard the national interest of the country. That national interest is mainly religion. But after that time, after this problem becomes not a threat, then states started to create good relationship with Ethiopia, and extending this relationship to economic and modernization was initiated by Emperor Menelik. ስለዚህ በሚኒሊክ ጊዜ ደግሞ የነበረው relationship ይሄን ይመስላል ማለት ነው. Let's see the very recent one. የቅርብ ጊዜያችንን ደግሞ በመናይበት ጊዜ the foreign policy during Emperor Haile Selassie. During Emperor Haile Selassie period, በዛ ጊዜ Ethiopia was assumed as if the founding member of League of Nations. Okay, it was instigated by Tafari Mokonnen, that is Emperor Haile Selassie. Yeah, and he was really dedicated for the creation of a very strong and centralized bureaucratic empire at that time. So
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
The period was characterized by having very nice relationship. Are you discussing? Lydia, can you try?
Okay. The League of Nations was the first worldwide or intergovernmental organization.
Yeah.
And the principle of that organization was to protect or about world peace. It was found in 1920 after World War I ended in 1918.
Yes,
So
very good.
its main objective was to peace and security and to solve conflicts by negotiation, and the other one was about
Very good. Teruna. Thank you very much. It's an international organization for African membership, and most importantly, Emperor Haile Selassie is always mentioned when we think of this institution. In institution በምናስብበት ጊዜ League of Nations በምናስብ ጊዜ Emperor Haile Selassie አብረው የሚነሱ king of Ethiopia ነበሩ። And why we associate this name with Emperor Tafari Mokonnen, the later Haile Selassie? It is because a charter was stipulated that charter ወይንም እንደ ምንድነው article ተረቆ this charter stipulated that all members were committed to protect the sovereignty of member states. At that time, colonialism was one of the problem that most of African states were colonized by European superpowers, and the problem was, on one hand, there was the World War, the First World War, and the other was countries were not sovereign enough. Independency was one of the trigger thing that they really want. Trigger የሚያረጋቸው አገሮችን በጣም እንዲነሳሱ የሚያረጋቸው ነገር it was independency, it was sovereignty. So the charter mainly aimed at የተረቀቀው charter ምንድን ነበረ? States should protect their sovereignty. Or every member state should stand against any colonial intention. ከማንኛውም colonial intention አገሮች በሙሉ እንዲነሳሱ የተረቀቀ ነበር። So at this moment through diplomacy, Haile Selassie was able to regain a complete administrative control over the League of Nations. The League of Nations እንደ administrator ሆነው ሲመሩ የነበሩ መሪ ነበሩ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ you don't only limit your understanding of Ethiopia in just creating a relationship, but it is a founding member እንደ መስራች ሀገር ኢትዮጵያ ሁልጊዜም ከሊግ ኦፍ ኔሽን ጋር ትነሳለች ማለት ነው። የሊግ ኦፍ ኔሽን ዓላማ ደግሞ እንደነገርናችሁ it is just to protect the world from similar war. Okay? From similar war. ከተመሳሳይ ጦርነት አፍሪካን ብሎም ዓለምን ፕሮቴክት የሚያደርግ ኦርጋናይዜሽን ነበር ማለት ነው። Therefore, here you should not forget that Ethiopia also played a very significant role in Africa fighting for African independence and to end colonialism and apartheid. In addition to colonialism, there was a problem of apartheid. Do you have any idea about apartheid? What is apartheid? Especially, it was a common problem in South Africa and similar states, whereby there was a racism. There was a racism between blacks and whites. So apartheid was also one of the other things that this organization was fighting for. So So in the collaboration with some other states, Africa started to unify. Unity is one of the things that always mentioned with regard to League of Nations. ስለዚህ በዚህ League of Nations ላይ አስተዋጽኦ የነበራቸው ብዙ ሀገሮች ነበሩ። ከዛ መካከል ኢትዮጵያ አንዷ የምትጠቀስ ሀገር ነች ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ኢትዮጵያ በታሪኳ እስከ ዓለም አቀፍ ግንኙነቶችን ሜምበር ብቻ መሆን ሳይሆን እንደ መስራችም ሆና ያገለገለች ሀገር ናት ማለት ነው። Good. Then after this period, the period በኋላ ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ government ኃይለ ሥላሴ period was over and it was replaced by the military regime that controlled the states starting from 1974 up to 1991. ከ1974 እስከ 1991 ጊዜ ድረስ ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያን በስልጣን የያዘው የሚሊታሪ ሪጅም ወይም የደርግ ሪጅም ነበር ማለት ነው። At this time, the country was adopted a foreign policy oriented to socialism ideology. You remember at the beginning of the chapter we have discussed about how ideology becomes sometimes a reason for partnership. Okay, countries whom do have the same ideology can create mutual interest easily. So at that time, the military regime used socialism as an ideology. Therefore, the prime objective of the foreign policy at that time was to maintain the territorial integrity of the country. So the first country that attracted Ethiopia was Manabaraj during Russia. Why? It is because they are following the same ideology. It is because they have had the same political ideology. Therefore, Russia became the first ally or friend of Ethiopia. So with regard to this abandoning USA abandoned by abandoning USA, Ethiopia created a very smooth relationship that really stayed for until the end of the Derg period, I can say. እስከ የደርግ period እስከወደቀበት ጊዜ ድረስ they have maintained a very good relationship. And the reason for this international relationship was it is their ideology. በአይዲዮሎጂያቸው አማካኝነት ለረጅም ጊዜ የቆየ ግንኙነት ነበራቸው ማለት ነው። So with this, Ethiopia got a lot of things by having this external relationship. When Ethiopia got a semi-war with Eritrea, it was Russia that assisted this military. And when Somalia invaded Ethiopia, that's the Ogaden problem. The Ogaden problem, at that time, Russia was the first to safeguard Ethiopia. And also, when there was a famine, it was Russia አይደለም በዛ ሰዓት ስሙ actually USSR ነበረ የምትባለው. Therefore, Moscow, so many people went to Moscow so as to have education opportunity, and many aids was collected from Russia at that time. Because we have had a very good relationship with the Soviet Union, these allies used as a precondition to forward help. እርዳታ ለማድረግ የመጀመሪያው ቅድመ ሁኔታ በተመሳሳይ አይዲዮሎጂ መገኘት ስለነበረ ኢትዮጵያ በዛ ሰዓት የተለያዩ እርዳታዎችን እንደነገርኳችሁ ከኤርትራ ጋር፣ ከሶማሊያ ጋር፣ ከግብጽ ጋር የነበሩትን ጦርነቶች በሙሉ ከዩኤስኤስአር በሚገኝ እርዳታ ዲፌንድ ለማድረግ ተችሎ ነበር ማለት ነው። So one of the main characteristics during the Derg period was a very close relationship a very smooth relationship with USSR ከUSSR ጋር የነበረ ጠንካራ ግንኙነትን እንመለከታለን ማለት ነው. You can read the detail from the material that I'm going to send for you, but now let me go to quickly to the current government, that is EPRDF. Actually EPRDF changed its name into Prosperity Party, but let me for the time being call it EPRDF. ኢህአዴግ አሁን ስሙን ቀይሮ ብልጽግና ፓርቲ ሆኗል። ግን the ruling government አሁን ዛሬ ድረስ የሚያስተዳድረን መንግስት ምን አይነት ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ይጠቀም ነበር በምትልበት ጊዜ it is the opposite of the previous one. Yeah, it was the opposite of the Derg regime. At that time the ideology was socialism and communism, but currently we are following a new understanding, that is capitalism. With capitalism, the economic alliance is shifted from USSR to where? To where? የአሊያንሱ የግንኙነቱ መስመር
ቻይና
ቻይና መሰለኝ
China and America. America is one of the heartbeat of Ethiopia. የልብ ምትድረስ እስከምትሆን ድረስ የደረሰችበትን ጊዜ ነው የምናስበው. Ideology completely ስለተቀየረ, it is because the ideology was completely changed, then the relationship is also changed accordingly. Relationship በዛ መሰረት ተቀይሯል ማለት ነው. So what sort of changes we have observed? ምን አይነት ለውጦችን mainly ተመለከትን as the ideology changed? Because the ideology changed, globalization becomes the first motive of the world, and we seek አይሰማም? ሄሎ አይሰማችሁ?
ይሰማናል።
ለማውራት የፈለገ ሰው አለ መሰለኝ ስፒከሩን የሚነካካ። ኦኬ the strategy that we have used is called inside out approach. That means if we solve our diplomatic problem in the country, then we will not be vulnerable for the outside problem. Inside out means first we need to solve the internal problem. There was an internal problem at that time, and once we have solved the internal problem, then we can able to solve the external one, and we will reduce our vulnerability. vulnerability-ውን እንቀንሰዋለን የሚል approach ነው ዲዛይን የተደረገው. The inside out approach. This inside out approach was used for good governance and for democratization. ይሄ የcurrent government አንድ በጣም ጥሩ የሚባልበት ነገር ምንድነው? It just at least laid down the foundation for democracy. Democracy laid down አድርጓል ተብሎ የሚታሰበው government, it is the current government. In fact, it is not full, it is not strong enough, but it is at least good enough to start up. Therefore, at the diplomatic level, it was a very successful time. Economically speaking, it was also very good diplomatic relationship was created with China and USA. So this good diplomatic relationship creates for the prosperity of the nation. And with security level, Ethiopia has drafted its different offices that can really care for its security. And the inside የመሳሰሉ ትልልቅ ተቋማትን ከአሜሪካ በመኮረጅ ለፕሮቴክሽን ለይሄ ምንድነው የስለላ ድርጅቶች ማለት ነው የስለላ ድርጅቶች የተቋቋሙበት ፔሪድ ነበረ ማለት ነው። Therefore, the foreign policy strategy is building up the military capability of the country on one hand. A peaceful dialogue and negotiation will be employed peacefully to coexist with others. Diplomatic solutions can always be taken prior attention when dealing given with disputes, diplomatic relationship and above all, building up military capability would have a deterrent effect. እነዚህ ሁሉ የተደረጉት በተፈጠረው ጥሩ ፎሪን ፖሊሲ ነው ማለት ነው። Therefore, diplomacy in the modern era, sometimes called a long phase, due to the absence of major war since 1945, ዓለም ከ1945 በኋላ የተጨነቀችበት ጦርነትና ዓለምን ሁሉ ያካተተ ጦርነት አይተናነቅም። Therefore, globally speaking, we can say that the time was good enough to have peaceful foundation. Now, if you don't have any question, If you have, you're welcome. Otherwise, we have 15 minutes. Within this 15 minutes, I'm going to give you some exercise. I'm going to give you 3 questions that I'm going to dictate for you. Dictate አረጋችኋለሁ ትጽፋላችሁ እና እሱን ዲስከስ ታረጉና that will be the end of the class of today. So if paper and pen is around you, please try to jot down what I'm going to tell you. እስክሪብቶና ወረቀት አጠገባችሁ ይኖራል ብዬ አስባለሁ። የሚከተሉትን ነገሮች ጻፉ። Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The first question is define and distinguish between between national interest, foreign policy and diplomacy. Number 1. Number 2, ጽፋችኋል ጨርሳችኋል? Define and distinguish between national interest, foreign policy and diplomacy. Number 2, compare the last 3 foreign policies of Ethiopia. Compare the last 3 foreign policies of Ethiopia. Compare the last 3 foreign policies of Ethiopia and which one do you think is more successful? Compare the last 3 foreign policies of Ethiopia and which one do you think is more successful in achieving the objective of the policy? Which one do you think is more successful in achieving the objective of the policy? This is the second question. The third one, define what foreign policy refers to. Define what foreign policy define what foreign policy refers to. Finished? እነዚህን ሶስት ጥያቄዎች ትሰሩና send it with the following email address. You're going to receive on the chat box here. እሺ እዚህ ጋር በመታገኙት ኢሜል ተመልሳላችሁ። ፍሪቲን የሚል አሁን ኢሜል ልኬላችኋለሁ @gmail.com በሉበት ጂሜል ነው ያገኛችሁ ነው Please try to communicate me. Are you finding the email address that I'm sent for all of you?
Yes.
Through the chat box. በሱ ትልኩታላችሁ and it is on Gmail ነው Gmail ጨምሩበት ራሳችሁ ሰርታችሁ እስከ ዛሬ ምንድነው ማክሰኞ ነው አይደል ሐሙስ 4 ሰዓት ድረስ ትልካላችሁ እስከ ሐሙስ 4 ሰዓት ድረስ ከሐሙስ 4 ሰዓት በኋላ ብትልኩት Gmail ስለ በታይም ሎክድ ስለማረጋው ከ4 ሰዓት በኋላ አይቀበላችሁ እስከ ሐሙስ 4 ሰዓት ድረስ ሶስት ጥያቄዎች ናችሁ ሰርታችሁ ለመላክ ሞክሩ you can browse internet
the last foreign policy like ጀምረን ነው
you can choose three governments that we have discussed so far today ዛሬ የተነጋገርነው ሶስት government successive የሆነ ሶስት ምረጡና ሶስት ነው ዲስከስ እናደርጋለን
ኦኬ
እሺ ምንድነው ያልከኝ ወንድሜ somebody was telling me something I think okay so see you next time
try to እየተቆራረጠብኝ ነው ኔትወርክና አልሰማውም ነበር
ከጓደኞች ሼር ማድረግ አትችልም
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ ያፈራን ነው በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን በበረራ መስተንግዶ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጉታለን ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ ICM ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን እውን ያድርጉ